Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On the Record with me, your host, Tone Vase. Got a little different episode today. Is a bit of an incident in the world of Bitcoin involving an arrest of a local Bitcoin transaction. And I got the man on right here tonight. Now, I know you as Marabello. We met in San Diego, I believe, in 2015.
Yeah.
But the court records are referencing you as a Morgan Rockcoon.
Rockcoons.
How do you pronounce your last name for real? Because I know it's
Okay,
Rockwell
it's a
is how you go by.
complicated issue. So I'll say this. My mother is Penny Jean Rockwell. She passed away. And my father is Michael David Coons. And when I was born, my mom decided to merge both of our names together. So Rockcoons is my legal name that I was not aware of until I was 16 when I got a driver's license. I was known as Morgan Rockwell my whole life, writing it in kindergarten. And then when I found my birth certificate to get a driver's license, I realized that was not my real last name. And it's actually kept me safe in the internet OPSEC world where my financial and school records are not the same name that I actually went to school under. So that's why the
Right. It also
discrepancy is there.
clearly it also kept everyone from making fun of you between the ages of like 5 and
Yeah, yes,
20.
yes, very much. My dad was very against his last name, which is a Native American Cheyenne name, which is connected to the murder of General Custer. He did not want that to follow me in life, so he was upset that I had that. But that's where my name comes from. And I go by Metabalo, which is my band name that I've been using since 2006, December 21st. And that's became my local Bitcoin names, became my pseudo name on all websites online where I didn't want to use my actual name. So that's my ID, but it's also my band. So it's kind of funny to see that name listed as the indictment because it's Slim Shady, you know?
Gotcha. Nah, it's crazy. Why would anyone ever use like a alias name on the internet? Isn't that?
Yeah, and now aliases are destroyed when they're connected to unaliased names. So that's how it is now.
All right. Well, all right. So you have just landed from Vegas to San Diego,
Yes.
and the reason is on Thursday you have a court hearing. So
Yep.
I guess let's. I got a bunch of questions. I know the internet has a lot of questions. I'm not even sure where to start, but let's start with like how did you find out what was happening? Like, so you got arrested on February 9th. Let me
Yes.
do a quick screen share for our audience. You sent out this tweet. When did you send this guy out? February
I think it was the
14th.
14th. That was
Right.
about 4 hours after I was released.
Right. So you spent about 5 days
Yeah.
I guess incarcerated for 5 days.
Yep.
So this was the tweet that you sent. I was arrested in my home by the Department of Homeland Security. Now, specifically, ICE. ICE
Immigration,
is a sub
Immigration Customs and Exchange.
correct, and they are a subsidiary, I guess, of the Homeland Security. So they
Yes.
arrested you for a Bitcoin transaction in November of 2016, and you now released on a personal reconnaissance bond. And this
Yes.
is the, I guess, the charge.
3 chargers.
Right.
Um,
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. So, um, actually, sure. Let's get to that now. So there was also an article by Bitcoin Magazine
yep.
that profiled the incident. So and these all these links are in the bottom of my video, guys, so you can get to these links. So go ahead and read the article, and the article references the following. Not for
There's
public
the
view,
incident.
but everyone's viewing it.
No, it's public view now. They sealed it when I pled not guilty on Friday morning in front of a federal judge in Las Vegas, and they released me under my own accord to come here. And that's when that was released, and that was when that was shown to me, and then it became public. So that should have a line through it. It's public view now. It's been unsealed since last Monday at noon.
Excellent. So I'm not breaking any laws. That's
No,
good. Got to be
and when
careful
the first
around
time
here.
I saw that, I was upset that that was online, but that's where it's come now. It's fully public and released. I don't even have a copy of that until Thursday because they wouldn't let me take it from Vegas. They said I could only look at it. and it was sealed. If you see, it was sealed for many months, which means if I was walking down the street and a police officer said, "Hey, I need to give you a ticket because you crossed, J Street, you were jaywalking," they wouldn't even have been able to see that warrant because it was sealed by the federal government. So that was kind of confusing to me that it was secret for so long, and I wasn't even aware that there was one on my name.
Gotcha. And you're right. There are three charges. So the first one being a
18,
money laundering
15,
charge, right there. 18,
yeah, it's
190.
considered it. Yeah, 1956 is the
Mm-hmm.
official title, and this is the most disturbing charge in my mind because this has not been ever taken upon any cryptocurrency users by either ICE, DHS, or any other federal agency. The second charge of operating a business without a money service license has been the scapegoat charge to anyone who is selling Bitcoin over the past 7 years. And that has been attached to many cases across the country for local Bitcoin trades, over-the-counter trades, and exchange violations. It's the same charge that even Ripple is charged with. So there's certain things that charge has just been thrown at every single cryptocurrency user. But the trouble here is that this is the first time a money laundering instrument will be defined upon Bitcoin itself. So this is what I have been told is precedential. Never happened in the California district where Bitcoin under SB 129 is legal tender, and it's never been brought by Department of Homeland Security, which is right now passing the Department of Homeland Security Assessment of Terrorist Use of Virtual Currencies Act. So in my legal understanding, this is how Department of Homeland Security makes the bill that they have in the House look more legitimate to the Senate to pass, is that they are actually enforcing on it in federal courts.
All right. I don't really have details on that. My research only went so far. But let's back up a little bit. So I read this document over, and let's go into the first charge. So the authorities are claiming that you did a local Bitcoin transaction, so you go ahead and inform us. Is this accurate, or is the government lying anywhere? So what they're saying is that you did a local Bitcoin transaction where the undercover officer, I'm assuming it had to be a federal officer, not a local.
Yes.
A federal officer provided you with $14,500 in cash in exchange for Bitcoin approximately worth what was it,
9,200 and something dollars.
right. So
Yeah.
there it is, 9,200. So they paid you like almost $5,000 extra. You provided $9,200 worth of Bitcoin for $14,500 worth of cash. And what it sounds to me like they're claiming that the undercover officer informed you that the cash was earned through illegal means of manufacturing and distributing hash oil. So to me, this sounds like Bitcoin is actually not involved, and you could have sold this guy a car for and in exchange for $14,500. And it sounds like the problem is they're saying that you knew that the money itself was earned by illicit means, though it seems it still seems, even if my understanding is correct, it still seems a little weird how you are in trouble for money laundering and not the guy actually exchanging the money. But that's just like my personal thing. But I guess
my
that's
point
how
to that
they
would
do it.
be is that there's gross inaccuracies with that, and that is due to the fact that I was told that Bitcoin was being used as a payment method in the state of California for equipment. I was not told of any sources of where cash came from. So if the charge on this paper is stating that, which I've read over and over, it's actually not stating the fact that I was informed that Bitcoin was a needed payment method for a piece of equipment, which had nothing to do with any substances of any kind. So Before this whole event even happened, I was offered a cash investment by an investor for about 6 months over text messages. He met me in my house at the Gold Spike in downtown Las Vegas and told me that he was willing to help me invest in building the full node data center that I've been trying to build in Las Vegas for over 4 years. And about 6 months after communicating with him, he finally asked me to come to San Diego so we can make a contract of investment. When I arrived, it was the Homeland Security agent who lied to me, apparently the one that made the original trade with me, asked me to walk voluntarily into Homeland Security's headquarters under threat of arrest when I asked for a lawyer. And I walked into the office because I do have a prior relationship with not the federal government, but the US military. So I felt that I can soften the issue, and I talked with them for 3 hours. Didn't really say anything.
When did that happen?
That happened September 13th, 2017, the day the Merkel, the newspaper, released the article about DHS's new bill. That bill was secret up until that day. It was created back in May. So Homeland Security attempted, with a Secret Service agent in the room, to ask me about all of my previous Bitcoin trades, Bitcoin technologies I've created, and who I've interacted with. I refused to answer any questions under the terms of national security because I do national security work for the US military. And I felt like this was like a intimidation from an agency that was left out of the loop. And I got a lawyer. They let me leave. And my lawyer told them to not communicate with me anymore. And apparently, when that happened, they filed this warrant. And when I was arrested, Homeland Security ICE agent, while I was handcuffed in their car, were asking me how much Bitcoin I have, what kind of work I do with the US military. And then they told me they followed me around for 3 months downtown Las Vegas and watched me and my fiance on New Year's, and they were watching me eat every day at a local restaurant. So I was told by ICE while I was in handcuffs on my way to jail without any charges that they were spying on me for months because I refused to cooperate with them. That feels to me that this agency is trying to become an intelligence agency, because I had a Department of Homeland Security agent tell me to my face that they are not an intelligence agency. They know that I've worked with intelligence agencies, and they would like to know some information. They are only a law enforcement agency, they told me, and it seems now that this agency is trying to evolve into the intelligence agency that is legally allowed to spy on US citizens. Because NSA, FBI, and CIA are not allowed to do that without FISA courts. And I apparently was spied on by Homeland Security, Immigration, Customs, and Exchange, even though I'm a US citizen, born and raised, and so are all of my parents and grandparents. So I feel that this agency is literally trying to step up its responsibilities and become the liaison to Bitcoin law enforcement. I did not want to cooperate with that in any regards. I am loyal to Bitcoin, not to Nazis that run a fake federal agency. I do not believe in that. I work with the US Army because I believe the US Army is what keeps all of our moms and fathers safe in the United States. And my father was a Marine. So I was raised on military doctrine, and I was raised in San Diego here, which is a military town. I had nothing but military neighbors. I have been asked to train the Navy SEALs how Bitcoin works. I have trained the Dubai Police Department how Bitcoin works. And I have trained every branch of the US military on how Bitcoin works. I've also provided Bitcoin technology to the Army, to DIUX, and to In-Q-Tel. I have done that because I felt that if I could get the United States military to use, support, and actively function on the Bitcoin blockchain, from payments on bases to weaponry, that they would support Bitcoin nationally, and they would include it into the Treasury's storage and reserves next to the Army's gold reserves. I've been working on that for 4 years. And so I feel that Homeland Security is trying to take powers in the United States, and I'm being used as a scapegoat. This case is, what was told to me, is unprecedented in regards to legislating from a judicial bench in regards to Bitcoin. So if Congress can't pass a law saying Bitcoin is this, blockchain is this, cryptocurrencies and ICOs are this, a judge can write this becomes precedence, and it allows Congress to write a law based on that a lot easier. That's what I was told by my legal counsel. And unfortunately, Homeland Security stole my phone, and I potentially will not be able to pay for legal counsel for maybe a week or two. So I'm probably going to have to defend myself without a public defender or with one on Thursday, because I was told 4 hours ago that Homeland Security is going to keep my phone and use it as evidence, even though it's 7 days old. And it's literally a brand new Pixel phone, which only had my authentication codes to my exchanges. So I made a mistake in not backing those up. And because of that, it's detrimented my financial process through all this chaos. But it seems to me that that's the plan for Homeland Security, to take a full node, to take my laptop, to take my phone, and to use it as evidence for this precedential case that Bitcoin is being used in California as a payment method for equipment, for medicine, for rent, when Bitcoin is legal tender under SB 129. So I helped create a lot of Bitcoin technologies in California when that law was passed. I created Bitcoin Kinetics, Inc., the first Bitcoin company in the United States to use the word in our title. And we created a lot of the underlying smart contracts and a lot of the underlying IoT technology and some of the precursors to the DAO and everything at Ethereum. And so that kind of work I spread out from Intel to Google to the Army. And I feel that this is a legal precedence to undermine not only Bitcoin or include the cannabis industry in regards to maybe how the federal government views cannabis, which is going to change soon, or how law enforcement works on money laundering in regards to the cannabis industry. That's why I feel that charge was put on there to connect it. I've actively worked in the cannabis industry in the past. Me and Marshall Hayner created the first drone to deliver weed with my BitSwitch technology at Trees, and Jackson Palmer, Dogecoin creator, flew it around in the park. So I've been involved in all those technologies.
I'm familiar with those guys out of San Francisco.
So, I mean, they came to me because I had BitSwitch, a machine that turns on with Bitcoin, and I put it in a drone to allow them to have a publicity stunt for their cannabis company. So that put me on the radar of the whole world. But you got to understand that I've sat in rooms with the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, and they've talked about using cannabis and ATMs, and these kind of discussions go on with the federal government and the military. So I was told I can't be involved in any of those businesses over 2 years ago because it would conflict with my potential defense contracts. So I have potential defense contracts that I would not want to mess up. So this entire thing is made up to challenge that. And that's why I feel I'm being personally attacked, because I've been smoking cannabis for 17 years. I had seizures when I was 15, and now I have it for about 2 weeks. So this is going to be the first time that I've decided to change my body and change my life to defend Bitcoin, because I could have said, fuck it, and they wouldn't have let me out, and I could have pled guilty, which is bullshit, because I do not believe in any of this. I am completely innocent in this regards. So I'm going to fight this, because I think it's going to actually create problems if someone doesn't. I have to maybe take this all the way to the Supreme Court. If someone who was not as educated as me in regards to Bitcoin was in the same exact situation, this would be very detrimental to all of us who involved in the Bitcoin community. So I think it's a blessing that at least I'm here, because there are another 10 cases that are already going through.
Morgan, I gotta cut you off here. I know you have a lot to say, but I have about 40 more questions. So
okay, that's fine. I'll let you go, and I'll answer rapidly. So I just wanted to get that point across, because most people don't ever hear me talk about that. And this is going to make me talk about everything I've done for the Bitcoin community, especially the military, because if this is going to happen, I need to get all that out.
Right. All right. So more of the specifics. So did this person actually meet you in person, or was this fully an online transaction?
This is a online transaction. I was sent cash in the mail while I was sleeping in a tent.
So you sent you the cash in the mail. Was it like literally like an envelope full of cash that you got? Like
it was a box full of cash. And the point is, this trade was supposed to be under $10,000. I never would ever do anything more than that. And they violated our agreement by sending me more than $10,000. got in an argument with the buyer, told them only sending them under $10,000 because that's the law. And that is possibly which caused this charge to show up where it was talking about illicit uses.
Right.
Because that was not informed to me.
And do you still have the text messages from this interaction with this person, or
everything was
do you no
done on
longer have
Google
that phone?
Voice? So I can access that in history, but the phone that I had 2 years ago is in my possession, destroyed, screen smashed, and everything. So internally, the text would be there on the phone, but I can't access those. But everything that I've ever done has been on Google Voice, so I have histories of all of that through my Gmail. You know.
Oh, excellent. So you still have it, but do you still have the phone, or did they confiscate the phone, or did you give that phone
No,
to
the
your
phone
lawyers?
at that time I have it. It's damaged. The phone that I bought a week before this arrest, they confiscated.
Right, but
That was my asset.
that old damaged phone. I mean, that phone can be fixed. The messages
Yeah,
are still in there.
I
I mean,
have
they're
those.
still in the cloud. So you still
But
have the
even,
phone.
yeah, it's all in the cloud anyway, even
So,
without the device,
so I'm surprised. So when they came and arrested you, they didn't have a warrant for the phone that was used in this transaction. They didn't confiscate that.
They didn't tell me anything about any of the equipment they were confiscating. They came in, they rapidly arrested me, they asked me what was mine, and I had an office full of podcast equipment about to record my first show of Blockchain Wars, cameras and computers and all kinds of stuff. Luckily, my fiance saved all of my company equipment, and they just took my phone and my laptop with the Bitcoin sticker on it. They also took the full node with the big Bitcoin sticker on it. So they literally went after everything in the room that had a Bitcoin sticker on it and left everything else.
Gotcha,
It was
gotcha.
strange.
All right. Um, so have you gone back into your Google account and taken a look at every message that you and this buyer of your Bitcoin
Oh, yes.
did back and forth? You did,
Yeah.
and there was
I
nothing.
understand which this person who was texting me at the time may or may not be this person who was the Homeland Security who was texting me at the time. They all started saying after I found out they were Homeland Security from the same numbers they were lying to me from, they were Homeland Security. Didn't even change numbers.
Right,
So
and you're completely disagreeing with what the court order states, that you were informed that the money, that the cash was earned through federally illegal means of manufacturing and
yeah.
distributing hash rate.
That's a
Okay.
complete fabrication. I've been trading Bitcoin since 2012. You could go look at my local Bitcoin trades. And besides for all the trolls that tried to scam me, I have done great in that community. And I know the rules and I know the game. I would never, ever do that I would cancel the trade. No one in the right mind says what they're using money for. And if they do, you just cancel that trade. So that was never told to me. It was, I need Bitcoin as a payment method. And I have created point of sales, and I've created the technology that all the ATMs use. So that's not a problem to me when someone says they need to use Bitcoin as a payment method, especially in California, where under SB 129, Bitcoin is legal tender, which means you can pay your taxes and your rent, and you can pay the governor in Bitcoin. So it just doesn't make sense to me. I know that the federal government wants to create something out of this, but what lies on paper now, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so all right, so let's move on to the second charge, which is operating an unlicensed money transmitting business,
Yes.
affecting interstate commerce. So I have not. I mean, the law on operating a money. An unlicensed money services business. I mean, these laws are actually somewhat complicated. I've taken a look at them before, back when all of these laws were coming out, especially affecting Bitcoin. So since this is probably almost public knowledge, right, or at least a record of all of your local Bitcoin transactions, should almost like your history of local Bitcoins should be
Yeah,
on
you can
local
see all
Bitcoins.
that.
So
And I didn't trade for over 9 months before this happened because my mom died. I got $50,000 of inheritance from her, and I was living on those funds in the woods in a tent with a solar panel, creating Satoshi Wallet, the first voice-operated Bitcoin wallet. I didn't need anything, but I was up there for about 7 months and ran out of money. So I decided to sell some Bitcoin so that I can actually move back to Las Vegas and not live in a tent in the woods. And that was the first time I even acknowledged local Bitcoins or logged in for months. And it was strange that it even came up when I needed it, you know, like someone offered right when I needed to go look for a sale. So they must have saw me log in or something. But I didn't even use the thing for a long time. And on a side note, when I was kidnapped into a room for 3 hours with Homeland Security, the agent told me he used to work at Goldman Sachs for AML. So you could imagine who these people are. And on top of that, it's like a strange situation that I was even told that this was happening to me without a warrant because they were reading my text to me in that room, which means they were the ones texting me. So I was fully aware that they were the ones sending me the money when they did that after the fact, you know, and then I realized that I was being used for some type of situation. So
Gotcha.
it's been very confusing, but I'm not easily confused by legal situations or the government. I study the government,
All
you
right.
know, so this is just new to me.
So a lot of people are probably want to know. So, when did you start using local Bitcoins? And you were mostly just selling Bitcoins on there. You weren't a buyer,
Yeah.
or you were doing
Yeah,
both
no,
sides.
I've been a seller of Bitcoin since probably 2012, 2013, $20, $10, $5. I was selling Bitcoin when BitInstant was around. I bought Bitcoin from Charlie Shrem, you know. So I was
But
just learning every single method there is.
but you
I've been
but
on
you
Bitcoin, all of them, man.
and you didn't really do too many big transactions, right? This was like one of
No,
your only big transactions,
500
correct?
bucks, 1,000 bucks, 200 bucks. I mean, the only ways any of these systems would work is you know under the $2,000 daily limit, which is basically where you get involved in know your customer, and local Bitcoins didn't have that much volume in 2011 and 12 and 13 where most of my trades were done. And after that, I became an educator and was getting paid to basically teach people about Bitcoin. So it was unnecessary. But I also had the first Bitcoin ATM in California in my shop for about 2 years. I didn't need local Bitcoins anymore. I had my own access right next to my bed.
So okay, so another question is, how does interstate commerce come into play?
I have no clue because I was in North California and cash was sent to me from Southern California, and that's why I'm in San Diego for trial. It had nothing to do with any other state. And because I moved to Las Vegas, I don't even understand. Because my business that I run now, which has nothing to do with Bitcoin exchange in any way, is in Nevada, and I'm in the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm trying to push Bitcoin into the casinos in that state. That has nothing to do with this 3 years ago, you know. So it's strange because I used to live full time in California, and Bitcoin Kinetics used to be in San Diego. Then we moved to North California, and we bought a gas station, and that cash was sent to me about 100 yards from that gas station while I was sleeping in the Mendocino National Forest, trying to recover some of the land that we lost from the 2015 wildfire. We were up there with a lot of equipment, and we lost a lot of equipment. We had maybe $3 million of gold, silver, Bitcoin, tools, electric cars. All of it was looted during wildfires. So we had to move the company to Nevada after that. And every year I went back up there to try to recover land, but it was bad weather. And that's when I was up there when I got cash sent. But that's California. Money was sent from California. California considers Bitcoin legal tender. So this is something the federal government probably does not like and is probably trying to step over 10th Amendment upon California.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, it's really confusing to me, though,
yeah,
because
well,
money
I
from
have,
one city to another city in the state is not interstate.
so I have to say, like this part, this count number two, it does even sound confusing to me because, like, when I read this, and this is where you really need a lawyer. Like, again, I'm not a lawyer, but when I see things like from a date unknown to the grand jury, why is that like that's sounds weird to me, right? And
Yeah,
the statement also finishes like from the date unknown to the grand jury through about August 30th, 2017 within the Southern District of California and
yeah,
elsewhere. I mean,
yeah.
what's elsewhere? Like the whole world?
Yes, this is called case law. They throw shit at the wall, and whatever sticks becomes law. And it's unfortunate that, well, I guess it's fortunate that I'm here because they want to say Satoshi's been trading Bitcoin since all the way back then. And who knows what they want to create, because elsewhere and unknown dates is open cause for, bad law.
All right. So, do you know have you had a chance to look up what these sections actually are? I mean, I'm gonna Google them now. I'm not gonna do it on live. I'm doing it on another monitor.
1960 and 1956. I am very aware of how they
Well,
are. Read the
I'm
whole
talking about
thing.
like section 5330 and the violation of Title 18. Have you looked them up? And also Title 31, the requirement.
No, and they're long. They're very complicated, and my brain is not there right now.
All right, so I'm gonna look that up. So I'm looking at it now. Title 31 of U.S. Code 5330. So let me. So I got that part. Let me throw that on the screen, and I'll probably put these links in the description. So this is what they're basically accusing you of. Title 31, Code 5330. In general, any person who owns or controls a money transmitting business, and we can click on that to pull up and see what that is. Money transmitting business means any business other than the United States Postal Service. Nice.
Wow.
Approves check cashing, currency exchange, money transmitting or remittance services, or issues or redeems money orders, traveler's checks, or other similar instruments, or any other person who engages in a business in a transmission of funds, including any person who engages in a business in an informal money transmitter system or any network. It still doesn't say about the financial, like if the transaction needs to be of any size. So if it doesn't say that, I guess it could be like
the definition of making one trade over 10 trades a day, over one trade a week, over 10 trades a day, every week, is this broad range of what is structuring, what is a business. And for my understanding, a person selling Bitcoin to a person is no different than me selling Legos out of my garage at a swap meet. So if I sold Legos every day out of my swap meet backyard, I would need a business license, just like you need a license to have a yard sale legally. But that's not what I did, and everyone on Local Bitcoins doesn't do that. There are some people that run businesses on there and trade 24/7, but I always use Bitcoin to convert when there was no ATM around. It's not a business, it's an ATM to me. And I live in Vegas now next to 50 ATMs. I don't even use Local Bitcoins. I haven't used it in 2015, 16 since this stuff happened, because it's inefficient compared to the methods we have now.
Gotcha. And let's look up the other one as well. Title 18. This one you're more familiar with, right?
Yeah, 18
of section 1960.
Yeah, 1956 is the money laundering instrument, and
this one is section 1960.
Yeah, that's the money service business.
Right. So that's the actual violation.
So both of those are there, and the third one is called asset forfeiture.
Yeah, we'll get to the asset. We'll get to the asset forfeiture in 1 minute. I just want to glance at this one also for the audience. So 18 U.S. Postal Code 1960, prohibition of unlicensed money transmitting business. So if I were you, I would like spend the entire day tomorrow like looking at these laws to find out what
I'm gonna have to defend myself in court, because I'm not gonna be able to get the 13 Bitcoin by next week because my phone's fucked. So unless Jesus or Satoshi shows up tomorrow, I'm gonna have to study all this and defend myself.
Gotcha. So all right, that's actually unfortunate. You might have to. You're better off reading on these laws very well, because from what I hear from public defendants, you're probably better off on your own.
Yeah, because no one knows what Bitcoin is. The lawyer that I hired that actually saved me and got me out, he's actually won law enforcement cases on Bitcoin in Nevada in regards to gambling, exchanges, and casinos. So he's very educated, and that's why he took the case, saved me, defended me for free in front of a federal judge, and got me released. So I'm going to pay him, but if I can't pay him by Thursday, he's not going to be there to defend me. So I'm going to pay him for what he did to get me here, but I might be on my own by Thursday, because I was expecting to get my phone back, and he told me a few days ago it would happen, and then he was informed this morning that Homeland's going to keep it all as evidence. So it really put a, stick in the spokes.
So that's the forfeiture. That's basically all of the assets that they deem are relevant to this incident. So they took your phone, they took your node, and they took your laptop.
Yeah.
So those are all the assets that are referenced here under asset forfeiture.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason you need your phone is because that was your 2FA for your exchanges?
Yeah. I just got a new phone.
So you
put it all on there a week ago, did not back up anything, moved to new place, and then this happened.
So basically, okay, so here's a couple of questions, right? So are you saying you have the Bitcoin to be able to afford the lawyer, but you're not able to get to that Bitcoin without your phone for 2FA?
Yeah, I have maybe over 10 Bitcoin or so on exchanges.
Across exchanges, right? And you
can't and all these things, and literally the 2-key authentication, like Andreas says, I have 2-key A for my 2-key A, and I fucking didn't back up any of it, like an idiot.
Okay. Well, like I said, everyone on the internet knows that I hate 2FA. So,
well, here's the point. The 2-key A I did not put on my counterparty assets. I still have possession of. So my stupidity has actually kept all the counterparty assets that I've been building for 6 years. I love Counterparty. I've been building lots of things on Counterparty. So at least I can access that and barter with all the people that I've been paying for years, because I pay a lot of people around the world to try to help me build projects. And I was handing them all a lot of Pepe coins and things like that to try to, incentivize use.
So how much do you think your counterparty assets are worth right now that you do have access to?
My counterparty assets are worth more than all of Bitcoin. I have one coin worth $400 billion. It just has no liquidity in it. I mean, I have the most valuable cryptocurrency on earth, but no one's using it. No one's using the decentralized exchanges. I mean, all this IoT Ethereum garbage is nowhere compared to Bankcoin, nowhere compared to Blameflarks and Flurbos, the Rick and Morty tokens that I own, nowhere compared to Longitude or Latitude, the GPS tokens I own. I mean, I own the word Google on there. I own all kinds of counterparty tokens, so I'm just glad I got to keep those.
Can we elaborate a little bit on your $400 billion asset?
Yeah, so I made 92 billion tokens. And someone bought them for $5 worth of XCP. And every time XCP goes up or down in value, those coins are now stuck at that pegged value from the decentralized exchange. Just as a scientific experiment to show people that market caps are bullshit. And that was something that you could just go look at Bankcoin on County, and it's worth about $400 billion right now. But that doesn't mean there's no liquidity in it. That doesn't mean there's anyone in the exchanges using it. But at the very least, if CoinMarketCap and CoinCap.io listed counterparty tokens, mine would be blowing Ethereum away, because I helped create a lot of the things at Ethereum. And I mean, I figured Counterparty would be a better solution on top of Bitcoin. There you go. So,
all right,
there's a proof.
There it is. There it is. So this is your counterparty asset with a market cap of $249 billion.
Bro, it was worth $500 million when Bitcoin was 300. So I'm just showing everyone the counterparty's got value,
And you control this entire supply.
This is my verified address I've been taking donations on. So yes. And I'm building a utility app for this. It's called the Bank app. And this is an inflationary token over deflationary Bitcoin, so that we can play with Gresham's law from Bitcoin and Counterparty, and possibly replace the Federal Reserve with Counterparty and things like that. So it's just scientific experiments. I've been using these for years. And like I said, we got the Pepe Cash. Well, I created Blemflarks and Flurbos. Those are the monies that are talked about in Rick and Morty. So this thing could be a toy. This thing could be a Federal Reserve replacement. All I know is I have a lot of counterparty assets. I've taken a lot of those words because I figured they'd be useful in the future. I own the word watts and volts and input and output, humans and deaths and births and everything. I have a lot of words on there that I could give to anyone, but that's basically all I have. I don't own anything in the physical world, and that's why the government's probably pissed, because they didn't get my Ferrari, they didn't get no Lambo, no house, they didn't get no jewels. I don't own anything. I rent everything. I use Uber, Airbnb, Lyft. I could rent a car on Toro. I only own Bitcoin, and I only own Counterparty. digital stuff because I
How,
feel
how do
that's
you?
freedom, you know?
But do you have a bank account? Like, how do you pay for your Airbnbs
Nope.
and Uber?
I've been blacklisted by Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, um, all the prepaid cards because I put too much money in them and I took too much money out too fast.
But
So
again, like, so how do you pay? Like, for example, I still pay for my Airbnb and Uber with a credit card, like a bank credit card,
I got a
and
BitPay
then I gotta
card and I
find a way
use a
to
Cash
get,
App.
cash into a bank.
Well, like I said, I live downtown Fremont Street in front of a Bitcoin ATM. I used to have one in my room, but I also live on the BitPay card heavily. And now I'm transitioning over to the Cash App card. And I basically use things like that. Don't need a bank anymore, you know? I'm like the
And
perfect millennial nomad example that you don't need a bank. I've survived without a bank for 7 years, and Bitcoin is the reason why. I could buy food at Andiamo's at the D. I just ate there last night, paid $100. Bitcoin paid. Unfortunately, it's BitPay, which is a company I think is bullshit, but it works. So
all right, so wait a minute. So back to I want to try and help you to like work find a way to pay for the lawyers, right? So you're saying you have approximately 10 Bitcoin tied up on exchanges like Poloniex, but
yeah,
without because they confiscated your phone, you don't have a 2FA. So is it not possible for you to reach out to these companies? I mean, don't people like lose their phones? Like, how do
I
they get
have,
around
and
this
they do
problem?
the 5 to 7 business days. At least Poloniex, I've done this before where I've lost a phone and it took 14 days. So that's what they told me in an email. It'll take 5 to 7 business days. Last time they told me that, it took 14 days. And other than that, Google told me 5 to 7 business days for them to review who I am because I did not have my phone and could not verify it. So I'm literally waiting a week for everything to get back to my possession, you know. And like last time when I broke my phone, I lived without it for a week. It was horrible. And so now this is like that times horrible, you know. And like
Okay,
that's
so
the
so
side effect of not having things. Living digitally fucked, man.
let's work on a solution, right? So you're saying that a lawyer would need to pay a lawyer like immediately in the vicinity of 13 to 15 Bitcoin. But if you have the Bitcoin and you have a reply from, let's say, Poloniex and other exchanges, that you'll be able to reset your passwords just a couple of days later. You
Yeah.
can't find a lawyer that would
Well, this
actually
lawyer has already worked for me for
be
free.
involved in that and then take possession of your Bitcoin from those exchanges. Like the lawyer would actually get the 2FA so that the
Yeah.
lawyer would be able to pull that Bitcoin out the moment the exchange grants permission. You couldn't work that deal out with a lawyer. They would get paid
Not
10
no
Bitcoin in
the lawyer
tranche.
that I've been working with right now, David. He worked for free. He done $30,000 of work to get me out already. I mean, he's fucking Paris Hilton's lawyer. He's Bruno Mars's lawyer. He's not a
Well,
fucking
well,
cheap
well,
lawyer.
right, but again, like, why can't you get like a trusted Bitcoin middleman in order to take possession of the Bitcoin that's in Poloniex? Let's say you have 10 Bitcoin in Poloniex. Poloniex says you can get a new password within 7 days. Why can't there be an escrow that would take that possession and give that 10 Bitcoin directly to the lawyer about 4 days from now because the Bitcoin is there? Is the
I
lawyer afraid to touch
negotiated
that
that.
Bitcoin, thinking that it's
I
illicit or what? Have you tried
I
that method?
negotiated no, I negotiated with them and they just wanted at least a 50% payment or something and I only have like 2 or 3 Bitcoin in access, so it's nowhere near what they want.
But again, like, if you can prove to them that you have the, okay, fine. So you're not able to do that.
They're Bitcoin users. They understand how the blockchain works. Like they accept Bitcoin. They want to defend this case personally because I think they want to, you know, use Bitcoin forever themselves. But they want to have payment immediately. They gave me a Bitcoin address, and they already worked for 7 days for free and defended me in court for free. And so the pro bono time is up. You know,
Right.
and I didn't even
No. I
ask for this
understand that. No,
lawyer, but they saved me. You know,
I
so.
understand. I understand that pro bono time is up, but have you been able to prove to them that you have at least 10 Bitcoin sitting on those exchanges
Yeah,
and
but they
that
don't care. They want it
they,
in their proxy's permission because they have to cash it out, you know? So they need a on paper dollar payment because they accept Bitcoin through a third party and it converts, I guess, dollars to their bank account. And they want to see the bank account movement. And unless the Bitcoin shows up, no one's going to wire them. So I think they have a third party thing happening. because they're not using BitPay, you know what I mean, to accept it. It's going to an individual they work with, and I'm kind of just stuck in a time loop, you know.
Okay. Another question. So they confiscated your Bitcoin node. How much Bitcoin was sitting on there?
On the node? No,
Yeah.
nothing, zero. The node was actually running Lightning stuff and had a couple other things on it, but it had no funds on it, like probably $10 or something stupid, and it had nothing to do with anything other than scientific experiments. So at least maybe they'll learn what Lightning is.
And you have no other cold storage, no other no Trezor sitting around
I
somewhere.
do have cold storage, but I am not allowed to travel to California and go retrieve it other than for court purposes.
But
And
you're whoa, but you're in California.
I'm not allowed to leave San Diego after the trial. I got to go back to Nevada. I am under
But you
terms
have
to
a
be
but you
in
have a
Nevada.
fiance. You don't trust her to go and get it?
Oh, I do, but I have stuff buried in the woods, man. Like buried next to gold mine shit up there in Mendocino National Forest. Like, go find it, kids. But you know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, you got to do what you got to do, man. You got to draw a treasure map. You got to,
Well,
score some money
this
to
is the
buy a
deal.
shovel, and you got
I'm
to go
dealing
and
with
get. Someone's got to
extreme
go and
like
get it done.
pre-trial conditions, which means I have to stay in Nevada, no consuming your MS medicine, and if I travel, it has to be for court purposes. So I am not of mind or time before this arraignment tomorrow to really know what to do. And once this arraignment happens, I will be more clear-headed on what they're actually trying to do to me and maybe the Bitcoin legislation as a whole, and then I will act on that. But I wanted to try to get this shit thrown out tomorrow because I felt like my rights were violated and all kinds of other stuff. And my lawyers talked about separation of powers and they talked about violation of the Constitution and all kinds of stuff. So if I can't pay them, I'm gonna have to defend that kind of
Right.
stuff,
Well,
which is
I'm also a little puzzled. Like being able to go within the same state to get your money to pay for your lawyer sounds like
right, right?
something that's part of the case. It's not like outside of the case purposes.
Well, I have to do a piss test probably Friday in
Are you
Nevada, and
gonna
if I
pass that?
fail it, they're throwing me in jail.
Well, what are your chances of you gonna pass it?
Oh, I have nothing but THC in my system. I've already done 3 of them. I have to pee test randomly 4 times a month, and it's going to happen the day after the trial. I have to go back. If I don't do that, I fail pretrial conditions. My bond is removed. I go to jail.
That doesn't
It's
sound
fucked
very
up.
good.
It doesn't. And I don't know, man. I've been smoking for 17 years because I've had 2 seizures and my grandpa died of multiple sclerosis. So I'm definitely going to try to last. But this is the first time in my 30-year life that I've gone 3 weeks without my medicine. And I'm having little spasms and stuff, but I just got to go do more exercise and different kinds of stress reliefs and, have to change the mind because this is like I've always loved Bitcoin. I consider myself Bitcoin in human form. I walk around and tell everyone Bitcoin is going to be the most important thing they ever, heard about. And I'm just a Bitcoin teacher. So I don't want my career in Bitcoin to be damaged. And I don't want Bitcoin itself to be damaged legislatively because I've created a lot of technology and I don't want to see laws make it go away.
Oh man. All right. I think I pretty much covered almost everything that I kind of wanted to say. I mean, like again, oh, and you don't have family that can like front some of that money, and
I
because
grew
if
up in
your
Section
family
8 EBT card kids, man. I am the richest person my family has ever met.
and you have,
And
and you haven't hooked them up with some Bitcoin, if you still have
I
some in cold
have.
storage.
I have, but nowhere near this. I've have stuff stored for them, like safe, because most of my family is ignorant to what, a private key is. Because the reality is, dude, I didn't tell any of my family and friends about any of this military stuff I was doing because we're going to go to war with North Korea over Bitcoin. They're hacking South Korea. They're using it. They're blaming the WannaCry virus on North Korea. I don't want any of that stuff to trickle down to any of my nieces and nephews and bother their brains. So I've been isolated from my family and friends, and I focus on the Bitcoin community as my family because my dad was a Marine in a foxhole. I feel this is cyber war, and I'm in a foxhole with you right now, and we're making sure no one is messing with our financial freedoms, which is no different than my dad fighting in Vietnam for rice. I feel it's just a new kind of battle, and I want to make sure that it's not looked at in any negative regards, because this is an economy I've been living on for almost 10 years, and I know there's a lot of other people living on it. So I feel like I have to defend that now.
All right. Anything? I mean, I think I'm good. I mean, we've been going for about 45 minutes. I guess what's the next step? Like, well, you have all day tomorrow. Tomorrow's
Yeah,
Wednesday.
to like decide to be a lawyer.
So what's the plan for tomorrow? I mean, you can't smoke weed, obviously. So what's the plan?
I'm never gonna smoke weed again. So I don't know. I'm gonna do a little exercise. I'm gonna go to a children's hospital and get my medical records, and I'm going to gather a little more of this evidence that I feel that was used, by Homeland in a negative way. And I'm also going to study as much of this so that I can prepare to defend myself. But I'm also going to meet with my family for the first time in a few years and have dinner with cousins, nephews, and nieces and people I haven't seen in a long time, because I really tried to isolate this type of stuff from them, and now I got to tell them what's happening. And so that's all I can say that I'm going to do. And then come Thursday morning, I will be at the Edward J. Schwartz building in room 2B on the second floor. It's downtown San Diego. I believe it's 221. What is it? West Broadway, 221 West Broadway. Room 2B on the second floor. Judge Adler is the judge. And I'm trying to get every single person I know what Bitcoin is, or my military partners, to show up so that the room looks like there's support, and it looks like the federal government has no support. And I want my peers to be there so that they realize that this is not just based on me or affecting me, because I really believe this is going to affect all of us. So I have to fight it, but I want to make sure that people know that this is happening, because if they believe this is a fight that they want to be involved in, I would ask everyone to show up en masse, because that's the best thing I could do, is to show the government that the people demand real law and none of this nonsense.
All right, okay. So I actually did just realize one more thing. By the way, if I was anywhere near like San Diego, I promise you, I would definitely show up. I would definitely be interested in seeing what's going on in that courtroom. One more question. So you just got to San Diego. You're with your fiance, but there is another person in that room. Are we allowed to talk about that person and what that person does? You can say no.
He's my security guard, and he keeps me safe from all the bad people out there that want to make me disappear. So.
Do you want to elaborate?
I'll tell you this.
You want to elaborate on that first?
To try to create a place where all the Bitcoin people could come work in Nevada. Bitcoin is tax exempt in Nevada. And I have a chief security officer, a chief financial officer. I'm the chief executive officer. We have a board of directors. And in regards to working with the military, you got to think about this on a Department of Defense level. So I just have to educate all the Bitcoin people to let them know that this is a serious thing we are all doing, creating Bitcoin. And the fact is, people are getting murdered for Bitcoin. Regulators in South Korea are being killed over trying to ban Bitcoin. And people are being robbed at gunpoint with Bitcoin for their hardware wallets. And the federal government is kidnapping citizens and taking their full nodes. So I emphasize that everyone gets security or thinks security. And if you're a little nerd like Andreas said, where if you reach for your gun and you got to grab your asthma inhaler 10 times, you probably shouldn't be in Bitcoin, because that picture with you with the machete and the knife, that's how I think. I don't think any other way.
Yeah, that was a good picture. Like when I sent it, I'm like, yeah, that's so cool. And then after I sent it, I'm like, shit, that might have been a bad idea.
You're the meme.
It turned out to be pretty cool, actually, afterwards.
Same with Lop, and same with everyone that realizes that this is our livelihoods, and your life can't be taken from you. Your money can't be taken from you, and they will try, but you have to defend both.
Okay, so I got one more question. This was actually from the live audience.
Okay.
How are you paying your security guard, or is he working pro bono?
Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an important payment method. This is my philosophy is Bitcoin works everywhere. I'll tell you this. I've paid the U.S. military in Bitcoin, and they've paid me in Bitcoin. So this is going to become standardized. And there's this whole paying for things in Bitcoin. It really needs to be written down that it's okay. Well, that's all I have to say about that. Payments are going to piss off PayPal to God, but we all are backing to bartering. We're going back to our roots in the United States. We're going back to the Coinage Act. We're going back to the Militia Act. We're maybe, like my Uber driver said, this may cause civil war over Bitcoin and weed. The nation may split because if you want to use fiat or crypto, or you want to have your right to use a plan, or your right to live in New York City or California, I feel that these are going to be big issues in the future that people maybe get pissed about and pick up guns. So I think that it needs to be educated on the philosophical and legal front that this is happening. Prepare for things like this. Prepare for the federal government to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. And please take this as a learning lesson for what happened to me. You don't ever want to go to jail. You don't ever want to sit there and explain to people in jail that you're there for Bitcoin, because they all ask you how it works, and then they all get pissed on why you're there. So it's something that really caused even the prisoners around me stress, because they all wanted to know how they could bail themselves out with Bitcoin because the government took their cash. And half of them were angry that I was in there with them because they were violent. And they said people like me should be like Charlie Shrem over here in a safe, nice tennis court. But Homeland Security put me in jail like for 3 days. And they didn't even tell me why until the 4th day when a judge said, "Oh, you're charged." So I think that is kind of strange. And I don't want to see anyone from a 14-year-old to a 100-year-old, anyone in Bitcoin, know that this can happen to all of us. So please learn this lesson from what happened to me.
All right. Marbel, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Once again, you will be arraigned in San Diego on Thursday. I mean, people can just go to your Twitter. Why don't you tell my followers where they can find you and your Twitter handle?
At Nodefather. Nodefather. That's my handle. I also have Metaballo, Metaballo, and those are my public profiles on Twitter that I use.
You're also CEO of Bitcoin Inc.
Yeah, Bitcoin Inc. is the company I formed in 2015 in Nevada, and Bitcoin Inc. is creating full node technology, trying to create portable full nodes and data centers full of full nodes so that the casinos can have access to full nodes, so that when they use slot machines, they have a dedicated facility, and at-home full nodes that could basically be run like a cable box. So I'm building those products for the last 3 years.
So is it safe to just call you CEO of Bitcoin?
That I have the doing business as, yeah, and that's why I did it, to protect it, because I felt that if I didn't do that, someone would use it for nefarious purposes. So I tell everyone I'm the CEO of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Inc. is in the Chamber of Commerce in Las Vegas. So Governor Sandoval, Senator Heller, and Mayor Goodwin all know that I am the CEO of Bitcoin in their state where Bitcoin is tax exempt. So with that representation, I could walk around Nevada and say Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. If I was not there, I'm sure that all those Ethereum people up there in Reno would walk into Vegas and tell them what to do.
All right, man. It is late for me in New York. It's 1 a.m. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll put your links in the description of my video. This will also be this might go to audio podcast somewhere. I gotta see.
Okay.
But hey, thanks a lot. Listen, good luck on Thursday. I wish I could be there in person to watch you defend yourself in front of a judge. Unfortunately, I just got back to New York. I cannot make it out there, but I will.
Did enough for me here, man. I appreciate it greatly.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. And well, for our listeners, thank you for joining me on another episode of On the Record. I will try to bring you future very interesting guests where they get to share their stories or we get to explore some of our projects. Once again, I'm Tone Vase. You all know how to find me right here on this YouTube channel. And I'll see all of you tomorrow morning for another price analysis. Talk to you all later. See you all on the next one.